daily crypto news and analysis. It is September 30th, 2025. It is the last day of September. Wake me up when September ends. We're going to go over the charts. We're going to go over Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, the Russell 2000. We're going to look at the dreaded Bitcoin dominance, which is absolutely ripping, and some things that we haven't considered, in my opinion. We'll start it off with Bitcoin. In my opinion, this has been a confirmation of a higher low, which is a very, very good thing. And the next big thing is the biggest level of resistance is going to be 118,000. If we can clear that, in my opinion, that all but confirms that Bitcoin is going to get into the next level of price discovery, which may be it, because 130,000, that's been my bigger targets all along. We can see on the daily RSI, we've had a cross to the upside, which is a good thing on a bigger time frame. And on the 5-hour chart, what it looks like we've done here is we've held this as a confirmed higher low, broken above this 200 resistance, and now back tested it as the support, which is a good thing. I would love to see this hold relatively and then make a push to the 118,000, which would ultimately make a push to the 130,000. Now, I do think that this is going to be the last big major push for Bitcoin, which ultimately the last one is the craziest one. And I'll show you some examples of that. But one of the reasons is on the weekly time frame. Listen, I'm going to say something and I'm going to need you guys to use discretion, right? Bitcoin on the weekly time frame is showing a bearish divergence. Now, that being said, if I see something on the 5-hour chart, it could take weeks to play out. If I see something on the daily chart, it could take weeks, if not months, to play out. If I see something on the weekly chart, it could take months, if not quarters, to play out. And ultimately, this is basically confirmation of what I've thought all along, that by December into maybe February, that's going to be the end of the show for Bitcoin. But the last push is going to be the most euphoric one, in my opinion, and we'll get into that. As we can see in 2021, the exact same thing happened, but again, it's very important to note that the last little bit is the craziest bit, because nothing went crazy. Ethereum was at the bear market lows until this candle right here, when Bitcoin pulled back to 30K. Nothing was above their bear market lows until after this happened. So this is a good sign for everything else, but it is a sign that, hey, we're going into the quarter four. We're in the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter is the wildest, in my opinion. The exact same thing happened. We can see this actually played all the way into the December high. This is even a bigger divergence on a bigger time frame. But from here on, and I'll circle it for you, from here on is when we had alt season. So the fact that we're seeing it now, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is this is a setup that we need in order for alt season to take place. The bad news is this marks, in my opinion, the beginning of the end. In all likelihood, it's going to be wrapped up in December. That has been my case. That's been my thoughts since December of 2022. I thought December of 2025 was when things are going to get wrapped up. I'm open-minded to us getting extended. Truly, things are different this time with institutions. And I do think at the worst case, though, I do think that this is going to be the shortest bear market of all time in both ROI and in time, because it really is different. Everyone's going to be waiting for 60, 70% dips for Bitcoin. And in my opinion, we're going to be lucky to get 30, 40%. And it'll probably be wrapped up by May, and we'll probably start marching our way into 2028. Now, we've been feeling a little bit of pain in the altcoins because Bitcoin dominance is having a little bit of a bounce. And this to me is not concerning at all, even in the slightest, because this is very, very weak. And this is what I would classify as a full bear market on any asset. When you see the 200 on top of the 100, on top of the 50, on top of the 20, that is in a bear market. And not only that, we would need to see it like extremely coiled up here, like so, before it can even make an attempt to get above that. an attempt to get above that. And rarely are you going to just do it the first time around. So in my opinion, this is going to be in a bear market for a little while. Because why? Because we were in a bull market forever over here. And it took forever to break it, and it finally has broken it. In my opinion, I think that we're going to get rejected here soon. But I don't think that we're certainly not going to get above the 200. That would be like the worst case scenario, but that would still just be a macro lower high. However, I actually think that Bitcoin dominance is going to get rejected much sooner than that. In all likelihood, what are we seeing right now is we're struggling with the 50 moving average, and that's going to be a pretty big level of resistance here. And I think that we're going to get rejected. One of the main reasons I think we're going to get rejected is when we look at Ethereum dominance, which is one of the reasons I was so bullish on Ethereum back when Ethereum fell back to 2100, is we got the lowest that we were. This was the April lows. This is the lowest we were since back here in 2019. And I thought that this was the bottom of Ethereum dominance, and we clearly had a reversal. And not only that, but we have flipped bullish, right? This was in a full bear market, like we talked about, 200 on top of 100 on top of 50 on top of 20. This is flip bullish now. So 200 is on the bottom, then 100, then 20, then 50, then 20. And we've had a bounce off of the 100 moving average, it looks like. And then we look on the daily. What do we see here? We're literally crossing to the upside right now. So this just looks like a reversal, uptrend, back test of the prior range, followed by a continuation. So Ethereum dominance is looking bullish, and that would only mean that Bitcoin dominance is going to be bearish. You're not going to have one without the other. Now, there are two reasons that crypto right now is very pessimistic and struggling a bit to decide what it wants to do. Number one, the Russell 2000 is at the previous all-time high of 2021 and also the previous all-time high of 2024. And realistically, the highest level of resistance that you will find across any asset is going to be the previous all-time high. That is the number one reason. And number two, gold is absolutely vertical. This is a parabolic run upon parabolic run. We are beyond the 4236 at this point. This is quite actually utterly insane. And I think that gold has been stealing a lot of the thunder. And look, here's the deal though. On the weekly time frame, this is insane right now. On the monthly RSI, I'm going to show you this right now. We have not been this overbought since 1979. Okay? It's hard to articulate how overbought that this is. This is not some crap. This isn't fart coin. Okay? This is gold. We don't get oversold like this. The last time was April. The last time that we were even oversold on the monthly at all was April of 2020. I don't know if you guys remember what happened after that, but it was kind of a big deal. Of course, what I'm talking about is the 2021 bull market, and this has been stealing the thunder, and this is going to roll over very, very soon, and we're going to see a rotation of capital is what we're going to see. It's going to flow into the stock market. It's going to flow into the Russell. It's going to flow into Bitcoin. It's going to flow into Ethereum, into Solana. That is what's going to happen, in my opinion. This is extremely oversold. Not a little, not some. Again, the highest level of overbought, that gold has been since 1979. It was also topped out at that point. Now, I'm seeing signs of the end for Bitcoin on a bigger time frame, which again will take months, if not quarters, to play out. Cannot stress that enough. I know, I just know that people are going to freak out that I showed that. I just know it. But I do think that the last push is going to have a very euphoric push, in my opinion. It's going to flip so bullish. It's hard to articulate the difference in sentiment that we're going to feel with Ethereum being at 4,200 versus 5,200. Like, it will be completely flipped on its head. And people will be asking me, should I 100x long? Should I max out my credit cards? This, that, and the third. The same thing for Solana. The difference between 210 versus 270, not that big of an ROI push, but the, catastrophic sentiment flip that's going to happen is hard to articulate. In fact, how crazy that's going to be. But now, the reason that I think that we're going to get euphoria, and the reason that I'm very bullish still for the next few months is, and the reason that I think that although we have signs of the beginning of the end, so to speak, the last quarter is the craziest quarter, and we know this to be true. Look at any bull run. It wasn't until the last 3 to 6 months when things actually went crazy. But I would say 90% of your top 100 altcoins have the exact same setup as Bitcoin had in 2013. And here it is. Link is on the top from 2021 through present day. But you could replace it with VeChain. You could replace it with Uni. You could throw a dart and pick a top 100 coin, and it most likely, if it has good tokenomics and it was here in 2021, it has a chart that looks like this. And the reason that they all look the same, in my opinion, is rising tides float all ships. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. They're all going to do relatively the same thing at the same time. Even the others is looking like the exact same chart. But on the bottom, though, is the previous structure where we have confirmation of how this plays out. And this is what it looks like. We have, parabolic rise, distribution, markdown, accumulation, sign of strength, back test, move higher, back test, reaccumulate, and then you start to gruel your way higher. Again, the highest level of resistance is the previous all-time high. In my opinion, what we're fighting with right now, the biggest deciders, I guess, of the altcoins are going to be obviously Solana and Ethereum, in my opinion, are doing this right here, which is you're getting to the highest level of resistance and you have multiple rejections, rejection before finally breaking out. In my opinion, Ethereum is doing this. Solana is doing this on the market cap, fighting with the all-time highs. The Russell is doing this, fighting with the all-time highs. And once you break out, you do so violently. Most of the altcoins have this exact same setup. LCX, DOT, BCH, AVAX, AMP, Algo, ADA, Link, Litecoin, NCT. By the way, here's a really good example. You might be like, oh, he's just cherry picking one chart to show one example. Here's Render, by the way. Here's Render. Had the exact same setup. Markdown, accumulation, sign of strength, back test, move higher, reaccumulation, gruel your way higher. It's already done it, right? The move's already over for Render, where it had a big parabolic rise. It went into full-on price discovery. I think that this was the 2618, if I'm not mistaken. It might be the 1618. Yeah, so the 1618, lots of level. You could say that that's a 1618 move. It didn't quite get to the 2618. Whatever. It got into price discovery, followed by going into distribution, followed by going into your markdown again. So listen, it's not just one example that I'm pulling from. There's lots of examples. INJ had the same setup, already went into parabolic, already went into distribution back in December. Shiba, Uniswap, VeChain, XDC, XYO. Even, by the way, physical silver had this exact same setup and now is fighting with the all-time high. Crow, like, I can do this all day because I'm telling you, there's no shortage of coins that have this exact same setup. Today is the last day of September, which we know is the worst performing month, followed by October and November are the best performing months. I don't think it's going to be any different. The big scary event is the government shutdown. To me, it's all smoke, no fire. Even if it happens, guess what? In my opinion, that's going to mark the actual pivot and the bottom. So cautiously optimistic. I'm not max out your credit cards optimistic. I'm not 100x long optimistic. I'm not borrow from your father-in-law optimistic, but I am cautiously optimistic. I do want to see a continuation for Bitcoin holding this support here as a higher low and a back test of the prior range. That would be beautiful. To me, gold, Russell, and Bitcoin that's going to determine literally everything else. So my eyes are going to be locked in, glued on that for the next couple of days. We have a big couple of candle closes. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Follow me for more. Yes, savages.